Hi, my name is Mike Ferry, and you've been handed this particular DVD by a real estate professional who's very interested in your home, and they wanted me to share some thoughts with you about selling your home in today's very interesting and unusual real estate market. This is a market that we've probably, in most cases, never experienced before, and it's very important that you understand the dynamics, both good and bad, of this market so the agent can help you get this home sold. Well, why has this agent chosen Mike Ferry to do this with you or to share these thoughts? The National Association of Realtors, which is the governing body of the real estate profession, several years ago repetitively named me, and I was quite honored, as one of the 5 most influential people in the real estate industry. Now, this was quite an honor because people don't know who I am, and that's perfectly fine with me. But I was named along with the President of the United States as being influential, the U.S. Congress as being influential, the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, who's very influential, a man named Henry Silverman, who runs and operates the largest real estate company in the world, and myself. And it's interesting because I've been training and coaching virtually hundreds of thousands of agents for the last 31 years on how to help people like you get the job done of either buying or selling a home, and in this case, in getting their home sold. So we want to talk about that process and what we think you need to know to make that happen. I guess the first question we want to look at is this: how did this real estate world that you and I are living in end up in this incredible mess that it's in today? With all the economic things going on and the bailouts and the loans and the lenders going out of business and all the things that you and I read about every day and hear about, how did this happen? How did this happen to us? And more importantly, how does it affect you as a homeowner? Well, in the real estate profession, we deal in cycles, and I'm sure in your business, whatever it may be, you deal in cycles also. From 1995 to 2005, we had one of the longest running, upward swinging, great real estate markets probably in the history of our country. It was absolutely incredible. You hopefully bought some real estate and profited from that great cycle, which was going straight up for almost 10 years. But you and I both know that with every cycle that is going up, there's going to be a natural cycle going down, because there is that yin and yang. There's that plus and minus, there's the good and bad in everything we do. So with this cycle that we're involved in today going down, what do we do to solve the problem for people like yourself? It's an interesting problem to solve. But I'd like to say this to you first. I think most people that are listing and selling their homes today probably aren't really sure why we're involved in the mess we're involved in today. Well, let me give you some thoughts on that. In 2004, 2005, and 2006, it is estimated that 40% of all the sales made in the United States were made to what we would call investors. Now, investors could be a couple like yourself, a person like myself, that has decided to take some of their equity and buy a rental property or a condominium or a duplex or a fourplex for their future. And I understand that. But 40% of all the sales were made to investors, which is way out of balance, which means that everybody thought that in the marketplace we're in at that time, you could get rich buying and selling real estate. In most cases, these investors were going to buy it, hold it for a year or two, flip it, make a substantial profit, and go on with their life. But see, at the same time, between 2000 and 2006, a whole new era of lending took place. Oh, you hear about it in the news all the time. You hear this word subprime loans being used, and we look at those as what we called ARM loans, adjustable rate mortgages. Now, what was happening for about 5 or 6 years, a couple, an individual that probably shouldn't have bought a home, probably couldn't afford to buy a home, was able to buy a home because the lenders had all this money to lend, and they would go ahead and say to a homeowner or a potential buyer like yourself, hey, buy this home, put minimum down, we'll give you a low interest rate, and then 3 years, when the economy is even better than it is today, you can refinance at a higher rate and you can have home ownership and make lots of money on your equity. Well, now let's stop for a minute. With all those investors realizing in 2006 that the market wasn't as good as they thought it would be, because the downward trending market started in 2005, 2006, and with all these ARM loans that were in most cases 3-year loans coming due, all of a sudden we had a lot of inventory for sale that we never anticipated. Then you add to the fact that all these great home builders throughout the United States were building tremendous numbers of subdivisions every place you look. I mean, as you saw, no matter where you look, there were new home subdivisions, there were tremendous amounts of condominiums and townhomes being built, and these people were putting all these homes on the market. Now, watch this. All of a sudden, instead of having X number of homes for sale at a given time in the U.S., which represented 5 to 6 months of inventory, all of a sudden we're sitting here with 15, 18, 20 months worth of inventory, which tells us the following result. And you can already see this coming. When all these homes came on the market by the investors, that suddenly they couldn't sell, some of those homes started being repossessed. And then all these ARM loans coming due, and some of these people couldn't afford the new interest rates. They had to walk away from these homes, and some of these builders became desperate to sell. So what happens? All of a sudden, there's 1.5 million to 2 million bank repos over the last 12 to 18 months, and more projected in the future, which means the real estate market is suddenly completely out of control. Then you add the other factor, which is just normal people that are moving up or moving down, buying a bigger home, buying a smaller home for whatever reason. So what's the result of all this to you as a homeowner today? An enormous inventory. Guys, you know whenever you have an enormous inventory, we are going to have a little lower demand, because a large inventory in most cases scares people back. What's the problem? What's wrong? Why are so many for sale? There must be something wrong. And there was something wrong. There were too many economic factors that were causing people to look and say, maybe we should wait. So huge inventory, ladies and gentlemen, lower demand, and as a result of lower demand, there's always going to be lower prices for those homes that you are going to sell, that you and I need to or want to sell. Now, if we sit down, you and I was going to talk to you about getting your home sold, I would say to you, there are 2 critical factors for you to look at and talk to your professional agent about. The first factor is, how badly do you want to, or how badly do you have to sell this home? See, the motivation that you have determines the second factor, which is your price. The stronger your motivation is to sell, the worse you want to get it sold, the lower you will make your price, which makes it much more conducive to bringing a buyer into your property. The problem, of course, we have today is we would all like to have the highest price possible. Every one of us, I mean, you and I, wouldn't we love to have the prices that we could have gotten in 2003, 2004, and early 2005 in 2008, 2009? And the answer is we would love to have it, but we're probably not going to get it. Why? Because there's too many choices, too many homes for sale. Buyers can drive around now for several days, and instead of looking at 4 or 5 homes and having to buy one right now or lose out, they're looking at 50 to 100 homes and saying, which seller absolutely will price their home to sell, and which seller will make me a deal that is good for them and good for me? So here's an interesting thing for you. If the agent you're talking to now is willing to take you through the following process, and the reason I say it that way is the better the agent, the more picky they become, because as you can see, with so many homes for sale, the good agents are only going to select people like yourself that have to sell and willing to price their home to sell. So the agent's going to determine if they want to list your home. And more importantly, they want to determine, can they sell your home? We have taught virtually hundreds of thousands of agents a very simple process that allows you as a homeowner and a seller to see if this agent and you can agree on what has to be done. I'd like to take you through that process, if I may. There's several steps you need to go through in the process of listing and selling a home. So the process, or step number 1, is the following. They're going to ask you a series of what we call pre-qualifying questions. Now, the purpose of their questions is to determine if they can really be of help to you. A great agent will look at you and say, you know, I've listened to what you're doing, I've listened to your concerns, I've listened to your circumstances, and I can or cannot be of help to you. A great agent is not going to list every property they can list because there's no value to them and no value to you. It certainly doesn't help you if they list your property and they can't get it sold. So they're going to ask you questions, and I want you to answer each one honestly, and you and that agent talk about those answers, because that will determine how much value they can bring to you. Second, they're going to send you what we call a pre-listing package. And I'm going to ask you to please read it very carefully, because it's going to help you make a very good, valid decision on your home. In that pre-listing package, they're going to give you some obviously good people to talk to that they have helped in the past. Referrals. They're going to give you a very, very detailed look at your property in terms of what the price should be. Look at that price carefully. They're going to give you what we call a net sheet, the costs for selling your home and what you're going to receive when it sells. They're going to go through with you the actual contract in this pre-listing package. They're going to have all this information to you, hopefully 24 hours in advance of their presentation, which will allow you a chance to really look at this process carefully. They're going to give you the disclosure statements. They're going to give you all the information in advance so you can sit down together and look through this and make a valid decision. Once they've done this, then they're going to call back and say, okay, let's get together and let's talk about the sale of your home. And we have worked with your agent on making what we would think is the most professional for you scripted presentation. Don't be surprised at all if your agent says, I have the script written here. Do you mind if I read through it with you? And they will probably do that. So accept that as being part of the presentation. Once they've made their presentation and you've agreed on a price, they're going to ask you to sign a contract and put them to work. But if you can't agree on a price, which is pretty normal because you're going to want to get more for your property than in most cases the market will bear. One of the standard jokes in the industry today, watch, every seller wants the price from 2004 and every buyer wants the price of 1929. They're going to use what we call market statistics. The market stats are very simple. They're going to show you the reality, how many homes are for sale today, how many are being sold every month, how many new homes are coming on the market, how big a market you are dealing with and competing against. They're going to show all this to you. Then they're going to answer your questions. And once they've answered your questions, you and your agent are going to decide if putting your home on the market today is the right thing, first, and second, if they're the right agent to make it happen. I wouldn't be doing this DVD if I didn't think your agent was the right agent, because they have been trained to help you get your home sold, provided your motivation is there, your price is right, and once those come together, they're going to ask you to sign a listing contract, and then both parties have to go to work to get it sold. Now, one of the challenges you're going to face is this marketplace we have today, in most cases, is not getting better and is not getting stronger. So don't be surprised that 2 weeks, 30 days into your listing period, your agent comes back and says, well, listen, we have had exactly no showings in the first 30 days. That tells us that our price is too high. Or they may come back and say, gosh, we've had 10 showings in the last 30 days and nobody's made an offer, which tells us our price is too high. Communicate, talk, think, work together to get this property sold. I hope this short DVD makes the whole decision-making process better for you. And if it does, then your time has been well invested. I wish you lots of luck in getting your home sold. I hope you and your agent make this thing work for you. And as long as it does work, then the real estate market in your town is going to be better with one more sale being made. Thanks for taking the time.